parts of the magisterium of the church and things like that. And so it's impious because to block or deny the perfection of a form of worship in feasts of saints, that is, when they remove them, to the subsequent generations, is to reject what our prior generations held as dear, or as holy, or as good. It is impious because the wholesale modification presumes that the prior saints were not adequately directed by the Holy Ghost in the composition of the prayers of the Mass. Every ritual of the Mass, except for the new Mass, which we'll talk about in a little bit, every ritual of the Mass, even in the eastern parts of the church, can trace themselves back to the Apostle except one, and that is the Roman Rite, the Tridentin Rite. It is believed that the Tridentin Rite, the earliest we have anything about it is about the year 180 to 200. And then after that, there's a very clear line. We see actually what's going on. And some of the reason that is because of the fact that during the period of persecution, you simply didn't write down the sacred mysteries because they could be named. But scholars are becoming more and more convinced that St. Peter himself may have written parts of the canon that appear in the Tridentin Rite. And so they all stem back to apostolic tradition, all of the rites, except for the new Mass. And we are not talking about the minor saints here when we're talking about the composition of these things, of the rituals. We're talking about some of the greatest saints in history. To presume to block the passing of a monument, not by perfecting it, which is actually part of an authentic tradition in which you take what is given to you and perfect it and pass it on in a greater state to those afterwards, which means you don't deny or block or destroy the tradition, but you perfect it in some way. But when you block it, and by modifying it in such a way as to deny many of the elements of that monument, it is to presume that one who does so is greater than the saints, such as St. Gregory the Great, Pope Pius V, and others, and that God had not adequately guided the saints in history. To take a missal and just say, that's evil, what happened in the past, the old rite, that's just bad, it's ridiculous, or to deride it, is in fact to deny providential history, that is, that God provides for us through history. It is also impious because it is a denial of God's providential care through the ages. Again, while modern modifications augment the monument and increase the patrimony of the members of the Church, the wholesale changes constitute a denial of our patrimony.